than the Albert clock. Now, a few years ago, the council renovated the clock and they tried to address the problem with the tilt. As you can see, it didn't really work. The clock continues to tilt, it continues to list, so I suppose you could say it truly is a listed building. Now, behind the clock to the right there is the old Customs House, Custom House Square, where we have outdoor events in the summer. Believe it or not, we do get a summer here, of sorts. Belfast is known as the capital of the 2-day summer. 2 consecutive days here without rain, generally speaking, means it's summer. 3 days is a heat wave, and by day 4, well, we're all down on our knees, begging for the rain to return. So to the right here, the old Customs House, Customs House Square, and in years gone by, the water actually came up as far as the front of the building. Now I want you to look to the left in just a moment. You'll see a big purple and silver ceramic fish. It's called the salmon of knowledge. Locals just call it the big fish. Legend has it if you kiss the big fish, you become a genius, you get the gift of knowledge. I kiss it every morning on my way to work. You can tell me at the end of the tour if you think it's worked. So, we're going to cross over the River Lagan now, and Belfast is divided geographically by the Lagan. This side, this is County Antrim, cross the bridge, and we're into County Down. This is the Queen Elizabeth Bridge, opened by and named after the late Queen in 1966. The next stop is number 2, SSE Arena. Ring the bell if you want off here. Remember, we only stop, it stops to ring the bell, if you ring the bell. If you want to get back on again, look for our bus stops, they're yellow and red, and flag the bus down with the red brochure to get at the stop. The guys and the drivers will be looking out for you, and we've never left anyone behind yet. Now look out the front window, a big orange building. You're in Belfast, but no, it's not an orange hall. This is the SSE Arena, the home of the Belfast Giants ice hockey team. When they were thinking of names for the team, the first name they come up with was the Belfast Bombers. Now, given our history of conflict, not the wisest decision, and it was quickly dismissed on the grounds of poor taste. The next name they come up with was the Yankee Rejects, and that's because nearly everybody on the team comes from Canada. Again, that was dismissed. In the end, they went with the Giants, because Northern Ireland, for such a wee country, is in fact a land of giants. We've got the Giants Causeway on the north coast, we've the giant cranes of Harland Wolff, then of course there's the Irish giant Finn McCool, who's the mascot of the ice hockey team. We do Giants Causeway tours every day if you're interested. The next stop is number 3, Titanic Quarter. We're going to stop here, someone's getting off. This is not the stop for Titanic Belfast, that's number 5. So we're turning left now onto Queen's Island, also known as the Titanic Quarter, home of the world's most famous ship. Now if you're from overseas and you're here to trace your Irish roots, to the right here is PRONI, the Public Record Office for Northern Ireland. However, it's only open Monday to Friday, it doesn't do weekends. And that's because it's manned by civil servants. And we all know civil servants, they're not like the rest of us. They don't work weekends. In fact, they don't actually work at all. Look to the left here, the Titanic's wee sister, the SS Nomadic. Exactly 1/4 of the length of the Titanic, and she was built to carry first and second class passengers to the Titanic who were boarding at the French port of Cherbourg. On the left, the big silver building, Titanic Belfast, and locals have nicknamed this one the Iceberg. We get a lot of Titanoraks coming to Belfast. These are Titanic superfans, and they quite often would hire out the Nomadic for private. HMS Caroline, the last vessel still afloat from the Battle of Jutland, the biggest maritime battle in the First World War. It was a turning point in the war, the German Navy defeated by the British. Caroline came to Belfast in 1924 as her training ship for the Royal Navy. She's been here ever since. Locals call her HMS Go Nowhere, HMS Never Budge. the right in just a moment, you'll see a green clock tower. That's the Titanic dock and pump house, where the Titanic was fitted out. Today it's the Titanic Whiskey Distillery visitor attraction. They do guided tours. You get to taste the whiskey, of course. It was the first Irish whiskey distillery to open in Belfast in 90 years. The word whiskey, of course, comes from the Irish word ishka, which means water of life. Look out of the front window, you see the big skyscraper. This is the tallest commercial building on the island of Ireland. It's called the Abellio, and it's 28 stories high. Now, I've got people on board today from right around the world. You will have much bigger buildings than this one, I know. But please, let us have our moment of glory. We're extremely proud of our tallest building. The next stop is number 6, St George's Market. If anybody wants off at the market, please ring the bell. It's won a lot of awards, including Best Large Indoor Covered Market in the UK. You can get something to eat, something to drink, there's live music, and artisan craftspeople making beautiful pieces. It's open today until 3 o'clock, tomorrow just the same until 3 o'clock. It's only open Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So we're going to go back over the River Lagan now, back into the city centre. We're going to cross Queen's Bridge, opened by, named after Queen Victoria in 1849. Now look ahead on the left, the big sculpture, Belfast's tallest woman, the Ring of Thanksgiving. It's a woman holding a ring of peace standing on a globe of the world. But in Belfast we give everything nicknames, and this young lady's got quite a few. The doll on the ball, the thing with the ring, Janet on the planet, Nuala with the hula, Grania with the Fania, and one or two other things I couldn't possibly repeat. As we cross over the River Lagan, I want you to look to the left here. You'll see a big circular building, the Waterfront Hall, and at night when it's lit up, to quote Ted Hastings in the television show Line of Duty, it looks like a big bubble floating up the River Lagan. Line of Duty was filmed here in Belfast. We do Line of Duty walking tours if you're interested. Can you see the big extension that's been tacked onto the side of the building, the Waterfront Hall? Local people, they think this makes the building look ugly, and so the Waterfront Hall has now been nicknamed the Soar on the Shore. Coming up on the right here, beautiful building built in the 1930s, the Royal Courts of Justice, highest court here in the land. The big wall at the front is a bomb-proof wall, a blast-proof wall, 44 inches thick, and it was built during the conflict to protect the building, but more importantly the people inside, from the car bombs, other bombs being left around the city indiscriminately by the paramilitaries. When we turn the corner here, on the left you'll see a red brick building. This is St George's Market, and this is the original Victorian marketplace built in the late 1800s. I spent every Saturday morning on the stage of the Grand Opera House when I was a child growing up. My granny worked as a dresser and we would go in on a Saturday morning with her. So as we turn the corner here, on the right is the Opera House. The pantomime still going on, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. On the left there's our tour shop. See if my boss is here. She's normally drinking tea. On the right, the Europa Hotel. And on the left here, on the corner with the scaffolding, getting a facelift, is the Crime Bar. The next stop is number 8, Dublin Road. If anybody wants off at number 8, ring the bell. And the Dublin Road is known as Belfast Golden Mile, and it gets its name because there's 1 mile of pubs, clubs, cafes, restaurants and bars. This is where people come at night to sample the crack. Now if you're from overseas, please don't be too alarmed. I'm not talking about crack cocaine, I'm not talking about Class A drugs. Belfast crack, CRACK, letter AIC. Just means a good night out, lively banter, good conversation, good food, good music, and 1 or 2 pints of the black stuff at least. Because let's face it folks, as you can see, nobody comes here for the weather. My granny always used to say she loved summer in Belfast. It was her favourite day of the year. From memory, it was a Tuesday last year and it was so warm, I was able to take off one of my coats. On the left here is the trade market. Now this is not a conventional market, it's an outdoor street food eating place with live music, free to go in, open until midnight. Because of the weather here, there's a tented area to sit under, big plastic bubbles that keep you warm and cosy. To the left there is a pub called The Points, if you're after traditional Irish music tonight. Now it's not a pub tour, but we are on the Golden Mile. I do want to show you one more. It's called Lavery's, coming up on the left. Oldest family run pub in the city. Same family running Lavery's since 1854. Next up is number 9, Shaftesbury Square. If you want off at number 9, please ring the bell. They serve 1,000 pints of Guinness a day in Lavery's. Doesn't sound much, I know Abbey in London. A mathematician, a physicist and an engineer, one of the most important scientists of the Victorian generation. Best known for his underwater transatlantic telegraph cable, which ran under the North Atlantic from Nova Scotia to the west coast of Ireland. His name, of course, Kelvin, is a unit of measurement of temperature. The next stop is number 11, Eglantine Avenue from Malone Lodge Hotel. Ring the bell if you want off here. You'll see the hotel in a moment on the right. Well-known hotel here for weddings. There's one every single weekend. And by the way, if you're from overseas, there's really only one difference between an Irish wedding and an Irish funeral. There's one less drinker at the funeral. Now stops 11 right until 18 are all about the conflict here, sometimes euphemistically referred to as the Troubles. We're going to go down the Shankill, down the falls to see the murals on the walls. Now in a moment, on the left hand side, you're going to see Windsor Park Football Stadium. This is the national stadium and home to the Northern Ireland football team. There's a footballing museum and heritage centre. They do guided tours. However, the tours must be booked in advance and they don't do the tours on match days. Now, I'm not a football supporter myself of any team. The European Championships, the World Cup, they all just pass me by. All those prima donnas getting paid vast sums of money for 90 minutes work. And that's only the commentators. Don't get me started on the footballers. Our most famous footballer would be George Best, born here, played football across the water for a very obscure team that no one's ever heard of, called Manchester United. To the left. George was a multi-millionaire in his heyday. He once said he spent thousands and thousands of pounds on women, thousands and thousands of pounds on wine, and thousands of pounds on fast cars. The rest of his money, he said, he just wasted. Talking of football, look to the right, diagonally. You can see 2 big balls, our biggest piece of public art. You get another view of it in just a moment. It's called Rise, and it symbolises the rising of a new era in post-conflict Belfast. We're not too far from the Falls Road here. This is known locally as the Balls on the Falls. You can paint a mural here of whatever you want, wherever you want, and the council will not intervene unless the person who lives in the house that is painted on complains. But that would very rarely, if ever, be the case. So, look to the left here over this wall, called the mural. We're making our way now towards the James Connolly Visitor Centre and the statue of James Connolly. And James Connolly was one of the leaders of the 1916 Easter Rising. Back in 1916, Ireland was one country. There was no partition. And the whole of Ireland was part of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. For example, Carpathia. And of course, she was one of the ships that came to the rescue of the stricken Titanic. So look to the left here, to the ship's masts. Straight ahead at the end of the street, the City Hall, and because of the tiers of the building, locals have nicknamed this the wedding cake. And right at the front, we saw it at the start of the tour, Queen Victoria's statue. Normally as we pass by her statue, there's a pigeon sitting on her head. I said sitting. Just one more thing to show you. It'll be on the right hand side in the ground of the City Hall. The official Titanic Memorial is a huge big white statue, you can't really miss it. It's the Greek goddess of death. She's holding a black laurel wreath of death. There's a drowned sailor on her feet being cradled by two sea nymphs, and she's looking eastward to the shipyards to where the Titanic was built. So to the right here, the official Titanic Memorial. Now folks, when we get to the bus stop, Chris the driver might be reversing, so please wait until the bus comes to a halt. Be careful on the stairs, use the handrails, and double check you've got all of your belongings, especially your children, because any children left behind will be given bucket foods of Coca-Cola, shed loads of sugary sweets. They'll be hyper when you come back to pick them up. You have been warned. If you do leave something behind, just bear in mind, I do a car boot sale every Sunday afternoon. Belfast is a very small, compact city. It's very easy to get around and foot. The people are very friendly and hospitable. So folks, if you want to carry on again, go to the bus at the beginning of the line. It's going at 5 minutes time. Then there's one at 1 o'clock, and my next tour at 1:30.